Welcome to Sports Love Media on YouTube. It's you guys, Sports Love, broadcasting live. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but we are resuming the Major League Baseball picks, group perspective thing that we normally was doing for Major League Baseball season. In this live stream, we will go over who specifically is playing in the games, the starting pitchers for April 26th and 27th of 2025. The games will take place on Saturday and Sunday of the said week. We will then, after going through that, we will do by vote who we think is going to win the games. Anyway, again, welcome to Sports Love Media on YouTube. It's your guy, Sports Love. I am broadcasting live, and we are going to do the Major League Baseball picks. Can y'all hear me out there in YouTube land? All right, so with that being said, let's get started. For the games on April 26th, you have Toronto versus the New York Yankees. You have Baltimore versus Detroit. You have the Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota. You have Milwaukee versus St. Louis. You have Cincinnati versus Colorado. You have the New York Mets versus Washington. You have Philadelphia versus the Chicago Cubs. You have Texas versus San Francisco. Chicago White Sox versus the Athletics. You have Boston versus Cleveland. You have Houston versus Kansas City. Atlanta versus Arizona. Tampa Bay versus San Diego. Pittsburgh versus Los Angeles, Miami versus Seattle, and on Sunday, April 27th, you have New York Mets versus Washington, Toronto versus the New York Yankees, Baltimore versus Detroit, Boston versus Cleveland, Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota. You have Houston versus Kansas City, Milwaukee versus St. Louis, Cincinnati versus Colorado, Texas versus San Francisco. Chicago versus the Athletics. You have Atlanta versus Arizona, Miami versus Seattle, Pittsburgh versus Los Angeles. The Mets are playing the Phillies, I think, today, but these games are for Saturday and Sunday, April 26th and 27th of 2024. So yes, you are right, Penguin. They are playing the Phillies. I think that's being played today. But again, these games that we're going to be talking about will be taking place on Saturday and Sunday. For Toronto versus the New York Yankees, you will have Easton Lucas versus Max Fried. In the Baltimore-Detroit game on Saturday, you have Charlie Morton versus Tank Skubal. In the Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota game on Saturday, you have Yusei Kikuchi versus Joe Ryan. In Milwaukee versus St. Louis on Saturday, you have Quinn Priester versus Matthew Liberatore. For Cincinnati, Colorado on Saturday, you have Nick Lodolo versus Antonio Senzatela. In the New York Mets versus Washington game on Saturday, you have Clay Holmes versus Jake Irvin. In the Philadelphia versus the Chicago White Sox, you have Jesus Luzardo versus Ben Brown. In the Texas versus San Francisco game, it's Tyler versus Robbie Ray. In the Chicago White Sox game and versus the Athletics, you have Jonathan Cannon versus Jeffrey Springs. In the Boston versus Cleveland game on Saturday, you have Walker Buehler versus Logan Allen. In the Houston versus Kansas City game on Saturday, you have Framber Valdez versus Michael Wachta. In the Atlanta versus Arizona game on Saturday, you have Grant Holmes versus Merritt Kelly. Tampa Bay versus San Diego on Saturday, Ryan Priepo versus Dylan Cease. You have Pittsburgh versus the Los Angeles Dodgers, which will be Mitch Keller versus Roki Sasaki. And then you have in the Miami versus Seattle on Saturday, you have Connor Gillespie versus Luis Castillo. On Sunday, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to see that. Thank you, Penguin, for joining. Thank you, Glitch Reaper 97 for joining. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you for joining today. Sunday, on Sunday's games, April 27th, which will be the New York Mets versus Washington, will be Taylor Mergill versus Mitchell Parker. You have the Toronto versus New York Yankees, which will be Kevin Gossman versus Clark Schmidt. Baltimore versus Detroit, you have Dean Kremer versus Jack Flattery. In the Boston versus Cleveland game, you have Sean Newcomb versus Gavin Williams. Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota, you have Jose Soriano versus Bailey Uber. Sorry. In the Houston game versus Kansas City, it'll be Hunter Brown versus Chris Bubik. In the Milwaukee-St. Louis game, it'll be Jose Quitmans versus Sonny Gray. Cincinnati versus Colorado will be Nick Martinez versus Ryan Fettner. Texas versus San Francisco will be Patrick Corbin versus Jordan Hicks. Chicago White Sox versus the Athletics will be Davis Martin versus Hervaldo Beto. In the Atlanta-Arizona game, it'll be Spencer Schwellenbach versus Brendan Pafat. In the Miami-Seattle game, it'll be Max Meyer versus Bryce Miller. And then Pittsburgh versus Los Angeles will be Bobby Falter versus Tyler Glennsnow. Also on Sunday, you will have Tampa Bay will play San Diego, and that'll be Zach Littrell versus Randy Vasquez. And then you'll have Philadelphia playing the Chicago White Sox, which will be Aaron Nola versus Jamison Tollian. So with that, let's go into this and see who we can make a pick for. So it does not matter at this point if you know anything about the teams. We're going to take a vote on who we think is going to win that said game for that said day. And whichever one gets the most votes, that'll be the one we go with. So, in the first game, on this first set of games will be April 26th on Saturday. We have Toronto versus the New York Yankees. So, between Toronto and the New York Yankees, who do you have winning the game? Toronto or the New York Yankees? Who do we have? All right, so since no one's voting on this one, I'm going to go the New York Yankees. All right, next game we have is going to be Baltimore versus Detroit. Anybody wish to cast a vote? Baltimore versus Detroit? Okay, I guess not. So Baltimore it is. Next game is going to be the Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota. Okay, nobody's voting. So I'm going to go Minnesota. If nobody ends up voting and stuff, I'm just going to make the votes myself, and we may just do that anyway, so we can go through this quicker. Milwaukee versus St. Louis. Anybody? I guess I'm going to go Milwaukee. Cincinnati versus Colorado. I'm going to go Cincinnati. New York Mets versus Washington. I'm going to go Washington. And I'm circling the ones that we made the picks for in this. So next game is Philadelphia versus Chicago Cubs. I'm going to go Philadelphia in that game. Next game we have is going to be Texas versus San Francisco. And I'm going to go Texas. Next game is Chicago White Sox versus the Athletics. I'm going to go Athletics. Next game we have is the Boston versus Cleveland. And I think I'm going to go Cleveland. Next game we have will be Houston or Kansas City. Houston or Kansas City. We're going to do Kansas City. Next game will be Atlanta or Arizona. Atlanta or Arizona. I think we're going to go Atlanta. Next game we have is Tampa Bay or San Diego. I'm going to go San Diego. They seem to be a better team. Next game is going to be Pittsburgh versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm going to go Los Angeles Dodgers. Next game we have is going to be Miami or Seattle. I think Miami is going to win that one. Okay, so just a quick review for Saturday on the games for Major League Baseball. Nobody was voting, so I just went ahead and made the vote. So, in the Toronto-New York Yankees game, we have the New York Yankees winning. Baltimore versus Detroit, we have Baltimore. The Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota, we have Minnesota. In the Milwaukee-St. Louis game, we have Milwaukee. In the Cincinnati-Colorado game, we have Cincinnati. The New York Mets versus the Washington game, we have Washington. Philadelphia will be playing Chicago Cubs. We went Philadelphia. Texas versus San Francisco. We went Texas. Chicago White Sox versus the Athletics. We went the Athletics. Boston versus Cleveland. We went Cleveland. Houston versus Kansas City. We went Kansas City. In the Atlanta-Arizona game, we went Atlanta. In the Tampa Bay-San Diego game, we went San Diego. In the Los Angeles Dodgers versus Pittsburgh, we went Los Angeles Dodgers. In the Miami game versus Seattle, we went Miami. Before I continue, the last time we did these picks a couple weeks ago, in both games, there were 15 total games that took place on Saturday, and of that, we had 7 right and 8 games wrong. On Sunday, there were 13 games, and we were 7 and 6 rather. 7 games right, 6 games wrong. Anyway, moving on to the games for April 27th. We have the New York Mets playing Washington. I'm going to go the New York Mets. We have Toronto playing the New York Yankees. I'm going to go the New York Yankees. We have Baltimore versus Detroit. I'm going Baltimore. Let's see. We have Boston versus Cleveland. I'm going to go Boston. The Los Angeles Angels versus Minnesota. I'm going to go the Los Angeles Angels. We have Houston versus Kansas City. I'm going to go Houston. We have Milwaukee versus St. Louis, and I'm going to go St. Louis. We have Cincinnati versus Colorado. I'm going to go Colorado. We have Texas versus San Francisco. Texas versus San Francisco. We're going to go San Francisco. I'm feeling California for some reason. Chicago White Sox or Athletics. I'm going to go Athletics. We have Atlanta versus Arizona. I'm going to go Arizona. We have Miami versus Seattle. I'll do Miami. And we have Pittsburgh versus Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm going to go the Los Angeles Dodgers. The next game we have is going to be Tampa Bay or San Diego. And I'm going to go San Diego. And then Philadelphia versus Chicago, I'm going to go Philadelphia. So for the Sunday games for Major League Baseball, since nobody voted, I went ahead and made the votes for what we're going to have for the Major League Baseball. So in the New York Mets versus Washington, we went the New York Mets. In the Toronto-New York Yankees game, we went New York Yankees. Baltimore versus Detroit, we went Baltimore. Boston versus Cleveland, we went Boston. Los Angeles versus Minnesota, we went Los Angeles. Houston versus Kansas City, we went Houston. Milwaukee versus St. Louis, we went St. Louis. Cincinnati versus Colorado, we went Colorado. Texas versus San Francisco, we went San Francisco. Chicago versus the Athletics, we went Athletics. Atlanta versus Arizona, we went Arizona. Miami versus Seattle, we went Miami. Pittsburgh versus Los Angeles, we went Los Angeles. Tampa Bay versus San Diego, we went San Diego. And Philadelphia versus Chicago, we went Philadelphia. So those are our picks for this week for Major League Baseball and the group perspective. These live streams will take place on Tuesdays. Not sure of the time yet each time, but it will take place on Tuesdays, and we will be making Major League Baseball picks. I'll go over who is playing, who the starting pitchers will be, and if we have people voting, it will be based upon vote regarding who we have to win the said games, and we're going to be doing that on a weekly basis. We're also going to have a special live stream on Sunday afternoon, if all things go well, and I will mention more information about that as soon as it gets a little bit closer and once everything is confirmed with that. Sunday's live stream will be a special one, and it'll take place Sunday afternoon. Again, not sure the time, and I will confirm it when we know what's going on. Outside of that, does anybody have any questions regarding who we picked? What I'll do real quick is I'll just kind of skim over the games and let you see what we've made a pick for. I'll show Saturday's games first. So for Saturday's games, there's the list of the games that are going on. Those are the ones we picked to win. And the same thing for April 27th, which is Sunday. There's a couple of games here that I'll show. And that's our picks for Major League Baseball. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to hear this Major League Baseball group perspective picks. I hate that I was the one that was doing the voting since nobody else voted, but that's okay. We will be doing this weekly. If you will, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware when I'm doing these live streams regarding Major League Baseball, when I have other specialty live streams, when I have sports action videos, when I have sports education videos, when I broadcast live, or when I have breaking news in the sports world. If you wish to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And I do thank you for subscribing to my channel. Without your support, this would not be possible. If you wish to subscribe, there are a couple ways to do it. One, you go to www.youtube.com, the slash symbol, the at symbol, SPORTSLOV, or you can go to the YouTube search tab and type in Bob Amin. Bobamin. You'll know it's me because I will have Sports Live Media burned onto a basketball as my avatar. I'm also on the Twitter X, and my handle is at BobAmin16. That is at BOBAMIN16. That's my handle on Twitter X. Again, thank you for coming to this special broadcast today. We will be doing these live streams once a week, and maybe we'll get more participation in the weeks to come. I took off the past couple weeks due to Easter and for other conflicting issues, but we should be having these live streams for Major League Baseball every Tuesday. Not sure of the exact time yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I know. Thank you again for tuning in today. I hope each and every one of you has a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Bob Amin signing out for Sports Live Media here on YouTube.